All right, welcome in everyone. Welcome back to Bronco Blueprint. Today we're going to be discussing a loss at Notre Dame, unfortunately. So first of all, I just want to hear what's your guys' takes on Notre Dame. What did you guys see that you guys were liking and not liking?
Hey, honestly, it's been a while since I've been this excited about a game. I was on my couch going crazy. I think we played really well on defense. We were very physical, which was something I was worried about after watching us play Penn State last season. I think we didn't have the big guys to compete. So that was my main concern going into Notre Dame. But watching the game, I mean, we got two fourth down convert fourth down turnover on downs,
Yeah,
which they thought they were going to get, big dog us and
yeah,
get that little short yardage, but they didn't, which excites me. That means we can go up against the top dogs. So I was excited to see that. We tackled all right just towards the end of the game on defense. We're on the field a lot, so that's not going to work in your favor. Those were the things I like to see. Um,
I'm right
What
there with
about
you,
you,
man. I
TJ?
was really scared about the running backs going into this. Watching some of Notre Dame's prior games, their running backs were shredding people up, man. They were looking really, really good. And like with our tackling issues and other stuff that we've been encountering this year, I was really worried that they would just be breaking big run after big run. And honestly, like our defense did a phenomenal job at stopping them on that. I think the only team that held them to less points than us and only by one less was Miami, which is number like 3 in the nation right now. So everyone else they've scored like 40 points on. Even like Texas A&M, who I think is number 8, they scored like 40 against them too. So I was actually really impressed that we held them to 28. I against the running game, like their running backs really did not do too much. I think they had that one big run, and other than that, like we were stopping them for pretty short yardage. So I was very impressed looking at that.
yeah. I
Absolutely.
think it was such a statement that fourth and goal, like Ricky
Yeah,
said, it just I think they wanted to big dog them a little bit, but man, what a momentum play! And I really wish that the offense would have been able to capitalize on that a little bit more and set the tone. I know it takes risks and really playing maybe even above your punching weight for a second, but man, uh, capitalizing on a tone setter like that is huge. And so I'd like to see Boise State um, just take a little bit more of a holistic plan of man how to capitalize on those moments. I feel like back in the early 2000s, that was something that Dirk Cutter, Dan Hawkins, Coach Pete had a really good handle on was managing the momentum of a game and pushing on the gas at the right time. And so I'll leave that at that. But it was a little bit frustrating to see, the defense have to come back out onto the field. Fatigue is a factor, especially against a big physical team, and you only have so many guys on the roster and so many who are ready to play, and that puts a lot of pressure when you just keep giving the ball back, man. It's like uh, I I was really disappointed in those throws that just kept giving the ball back. I really liked um, Maddox's like his sense of urgency, and I saw some explosivity through his movements that I feel have been missing for the whole time. He's always been a baller and a gamer and able to get the ball where it needs to be, but his movements have often been what I feel a little lackadaisical and really hasn't put a lot of punch into his movement. I think that he discovered that out of necessity this game. Um, and at the same time, I think we saw a little bit of inexperience with it because he started using it a little too soon and getting outside of the pocket and throwing on the run, where, it's a good tool to have, but you can't start depending on it. But, as a win, I feel like him having that explosivity tool in his belt now is really good. I think honing that in and using it well and staying calm in the pocket will produce better results this week.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that. I
There
don't
were
think he
definitely a
should
few
be.
plays where he got out of there a little early. Like there was a couple where he really didn't have pressure. Uh, there's one that sticks out of my mind where all of his guys had solid blocks. Like those guys did not look like they were gonna get past him at all. And he starts rolling out to the right. I'm like, where are you going, Maddox? Like you had all
Yeah.
day to stand there and look for your receiver. And as soon as he started rolling out, the guy that was blocking on his right hand side, he gets behind the blocker, and that guy just turns around and runs right at him. And it's like, now that guy's not able to block that dude.
I'm gonna tell you this. I've been around the team recently, well, last season. All the so I'm 6'2 3/4. Let's say 6'3". So there is not an old lineman that is shorter than me that's on the team right now. So I feel like if I'm looking at it, and I think the scheme that the defense used on us is we want him in the pocket because he doesn't make good decisions in the pocket because he can't see over his old lineman. That's my thing that I think they used to our advantage, to their advantage, because there were enough times where he did have time to throw the ball and find a receiver. I just don't think he can see over the line of scrimmage. So that's why he gets um, worried and runs outside, which that's what they let him do too. Because there were a few plays where the defensive lineman was waiting on him to just run back 10 yards to try to roll out and throw a 10-yard throw that's not going to get to the line of scrimmage. So I think they kind of schemed us up in that way. It's like if we can keep him in the pocket, we can win. And I don't like that. I think we're kind of, as Boise State, we need to get away from those short quarterbacks. I think there was during halftime there was no, it wasn't halftime. It's like a preview where they were showing the Minnesota quarterback who was like 6'5", I think he was, and he threw a beautiful ball, and it was like, oh well, they were breaking down to show, oh, this guy threw that ball because he can see where the receiver's going to be. Which if he was shorter, he probably wouldn't have made that play. And I was like, dang, that must be nice to have that type of vision. So for me, I would like to see us get a quarterback that's over 6 foot, maybe over 6'2", so we can make those throws. Because I know that we have the weapons on offense to ball out. We've seen that in different plays, even this game. But if a quarterback, the guy that's supposed to distribute the ball, can't see that, I think that's our problem. Because I think if we would have had somebody that can make those throws in the pocket, I think this game would have went a lot differently.
Yeah, I saw a
I
few
agree.
times where they were doing like designed QB rollouts, like a play action where he rolls out to the side afterwards. And I have a feeling that that was probably part of it, was to get him out in open space so he could see the field a little bigger. Um, And like honestly, I feel like I hear a lot of people say that take where it's like, we need a taller quarterback, and it does help. But there were multiple plays in this game where he he had a wide receiver, he saw the guy, and his throws just weren't on target. Like even when he would roll out and he had a wide open field to him, like he would throw it sometimes at the ground right in front of the guy, or they would be dropping to try to make the catch. I feel like Maddox really just, in this game specifically, he was a little uncharacteristic with his accuracy. In some games, he can be really good at that and just have a couple off throws here and there. But this one, it was reversed. It was like almost every pass I saw was a little bit off, even if it was caught. And the ones that weren't, you know, were the ones that ended up being successful. But we needed more of that throughout the game, I think.
Yeah. So I have a question to pose. It seems like it's a age-old question, but it's like, you know, for coaches, when there's a problem, when you can tell that your quarterback is not feeling it, not having a good game, and you stick with him versus bringing someone else in. Um, I know there's a lot of like mental play there, but man, as a player, you can tell when you're not having a good game, like you're not feeling it. You're playing a little tighter, you're playing a little more scared or something, and sometimes it takes that play to snap you out of it and get you back into the rhythm. But sometimes it's just like, that momentum again is against you and you're not really fighting your way out of it. So, what are your guys' thoughts on going to, say, cut fourth? Um, in that game instead of sticking with it pick after pick.
Yeah, like once we were like 3.5 quarters in and he's still playing badly and he had minimal signs of showing, positive improvement throughout that. Like at that point you might start thinking about that because it's like, I mean, we're already down. Like at that point we're almost out of the game. Like what do we got to lose to try someone else? But I just think that kind of points to the confidence that they have in the backups. And I know Cutforth came in on that one game and did pretty good, but it was like one drive and he only threw it like 3 times. And one of those was in the dirt. And I think there's not enough big sample size to really see how good Cutforth is and how consistent he is. And I think they see it enough in practice that they probably just weren't confident that, like, hey, Cutforth's going to come in and be our man. And I think they felt more confident saying, like, let's just stick with Maddox and hope he starts showing up. I
Yeah.
think it says more to their confidence in the backups than they do in, not like their lack of strategy and swapping out players. I think they have that. I just think they don't have enough confidence in the guys that they have to swap in.
I think so too. I think you hit it right on the head. To me, it's like it's easy to go against Eastern Washington and ball out and have 600 yards because it's Eastern Washington. You want a guy that you can count on when it's a big team, when things are not going well. And I feel like this is the worst game he could have thrown. I feel like I would have pulled him out just to give the other guys
Some
some
reps.
confidence because they might not look like the guys during practice, and it is what it is. But this guy looked like the guy during practice, but then during the game, he's not that guy. So
Yeah,
I would have put
sometimes
my
players
backup
show
in.
up at the game.
Right. And this might be the shot somebody else is looking for, and you never know. I would have pulled him myself. I think for what is it? Like the stats say, like if you have two or more turnovers in a game, your chances of winning are very minimal. So he threw 4 picks. That by itself already said, "All right, bro." In my mind, all right, bro, you done enough for us today. Let's try to figure something else out. Um, that's how I would look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Notre Dame did a really good job of stopping the run for the most part. There were a few plays where we started doing well, and I think what I found interesting was Riley actually had the highest yards per average at the end of the game, by a decent margin. And I know we were trying to get Sire the yardage and stuff, and I think honestly, like I love Sire. I think he is a really great running back, but in this game, he wasn't really showing too much explosiveness. He wasn't able to get the big yard plays like we really needed, um, and we really didn't see Riley come in. I think till like the second half, and I kind of wish we had seen him just a little bit more and have them figure out early on, okay, who has the hot hand, and then start feeding that guy. And I
I
think we didn't figure that out till it was a little late. But if we could have relied on that a little bit more, it would have put Maddox in a little bit better situation where he's not needing to pass almost every throw or every play.
I honestly think you got a little bit backwards. I think we're for our running backs, they did pretty good. I feel like that's a physical team you're going up against. They're gaining some yards. What we needed was our quarterback to spread the field by throwing accurate passes. So now when it comes down to, second, third, fourth quarter, everything is available to us. So now guys gonna get worn down. We get to figure out who is what and who are guys to not run towards. And then it's gonna open up our running. But what was happening is our passing was in there. So now we just became one dimensional. I think that's what I think happened. Because I think honestly, all the running backs were going. They were running physical. They didn't always, get the big chunks, but they were consistently getting 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, which that's what we want. If we wear them down, we can get to, 5, 6, 7 yards a game. Now we're moving. But the thing that was lacking was our accuracy on our passes to spread the field to actually make the defense stress and cover somebody. Um,
Yeah, and I think when
so
we did make a good play, like a big pass play or even a big run play, like what happened? We got it called back with a fucking penalty. Like like that those penalties really hurt us. I think we had like 11 or something, and so did Notre Dame. I mean, you could tell their coach was not happy with their penalties. Um, and I think some of those were some weird officiating calls on both sides of the ball. But a lot of them were just mistakes. And especially in a game like this, like when we do make that big play, like that one down the left side where we broke it out and then it got called back, it's like that play right there was like a game changer. Like that was a momentum
Right.
shifter. If we had completed that and gotten the score, or even just gotten it down to, I think it got down to like the 2 yard line or something, which we probably would have scored. But when that gets called back and all of a sudden we're back at the 40 or whatever again, like that really hurts the momentum, and it really just like I think hurts mentality as well. And that
Yeah,
happened
for
over
sure.
and over and over again. Anytime we would have a successful play, it gets called back or whatever. So I think that really, really hurt us this game. If we had negated some of those penalties, I think it would have kept us in the game. I think people, like even Maddox, would have felt less pressure and a little bit better mentality, going into those plays later in the game. I think it's really hard when you're fighting from behind, like almost the entire game. And when you do have that big play that you're like, okay, we needed that, flag goes out and it gets called right back, and maybe you lose 5 yards or something. It's like, damn, man,
Yeah.
that really hurts.
Yeah, but how do you negate that? Like you need somebody to make a play, right? I feel like it sucks to have that many penalties, but at the end of the day, you need somebody to step up and say, "Hey guys, like this is not us. We can
Mhm.
make it happen. Let's straighten it out." And that's what you look for in your leaders. Um, I didn't really see that. I think it was just like what is it, 120 yards of penalties? That's
Something
crazy.
like that.
That's a touchdown right there. 120 yards freebies.
Yeah.
Like we that's so easy. But yeah, that was kind of untypical for Boise State as well. I also felt like
Not this
we
year.
should have
This year
thrown
we've
it.
had a lot of penalties almost every game. And I think that's a really big issue. Even the ones we've won, man, there's been games where we have 100 yards penalties and we still win it by, 30, 40 or whatever. But it's like, I think it's easy to forget about those penalties when we're still winning by a lot. But those penalties are still there. And if, they're not being fixed, and I think going into a game like this, like all of a sudden we really see the impact. Um,
Right.
but I mean, even in the easy games like Eastern Washington or whatever, like those are the games where really we shouldn't have any penalties. Like we should be really focused on minimizing, because I mean it's Eastern Washington. We're already ahead by 20 or 30. We don't need to be holding. You know what I mean? Like just let the guy go through and get the sack if he wants. Like it's not that bad of a situation in that game. But
No, 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 no. You definitely want to hold on a sack. If it's gonna be a
I get
sack, you
it.
can hold that dude because you don't want to hurt your quarterback. But I get what you're saying. Like there's certain stuff that you can give up because you're already ahead. Um,
Yeah, but that's
but
like you shouldn't get yourself in a spot where you need to hold a guy to stop something like that, right? That goes back to other fundamentals.
yeah, honestly, it comes down to fundamentals for sure. I just think like Eastern Washington has guys too that can play. It's just
For sure.
that we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard and do, like you say, be fundamentally correct, and then everything will work out. But yeah, don't give up the sack. If you get beat, if the O lineman gets beat by a defensive lineman, you hold that motherfucker. We're not letting the quarterback get blown up because you don't want your quarterback to go down against Eastern Washington getting tore up by a defensive end. Um,
I feel you.
so,
Okay,
anyways,
because we need him for
TJ,
bigger games like this. Yeah,
yeah, TJ, what do you think? What are your
but
thoughts?
it does teach them, like, they're going through the motions of holding all the time. They're going through, like, they're getting that muscle memory in there that then they can't be doing in a big game like this,
Kind of
but it's already in that muscle
gotta have
memory.
it. Yeah, I think that's the best point of it all. It's like if we're seeing penalties consistently, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Discipline is a what am I trying to say? Like a benchmark characteristic of this team, of the Broncos in general. Discipline, and I think that um, let's see, maybe the quality of the discipline, if that's the right way to say it, like. I mean, I know that they're in there working. I know that they're putting in, they're grinding and all of that stuff. But whether it's a mental, error or a physical error, like these penalties say something, and these turnovers say a lot more. And that was one thing that Coach Pete really instilled is, man, do not turn the ball over. It's like Warren Buffett, don't lose money. Like, don't
Right.
lose the ball. Like, don't lose the ball, and we're set up for at least an honest shot at success. And so, yeah, I mean, I think maybe getting after him a little bit, you know what I mean? Whatever it's going to take to have him stop jumping off sides for the first, it's like offsides is, that just takes a talk, a heart to heart talk or something like that. Like, hey, man, what's going on? Where's your head at?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I'm with
I mean, I understand. I think it can be hard when they're doing all these motions and false snaps and stuff like that. But against a team like Notre Dame, like that stuff does help. It does make you a better team to be able to do that and catch them sometimes on those false starts. But if we're gonna do that, like our team needs to be mentally ready. And I don't know if it's like I have a feeling that it's a game time issue. Like they don't tend to do this all the time when they're in practice. It's not an issue in practice, so the coaches feel good going into a game, and then it happens 11 times a game. You know what I mean? So it almost makes me wonder if it's some kind of a game mental focus type thing when they're in the big moment. Um, and if not, like they should be addressing it in practice. But I would think if it's an issue in practice, they're addressing it pretty hard. And I think if it's not an issue in practice and it's only an issue in games, I think the coaches are having a little more trouble identifying and correcting that in practice happening.
I know that they work on that stuff during practice. I think it also can vary on the referee. I feel like there were a lot of weird
Yeah.
calls.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think it's just a mental focus thing. We need to get the one thing you need to make sure is not to give up the freebies and not to give up the ball. I feel like if we do that, if we didn't have 100 and some yards in penalty and we didn't have 4 turnovers, I think the game would look a lot different. But I
Yeah.
know that the
And
coaches know that as well, and the players know that as well. It's just like, how do we get to that point?
yeah, one of the guys that really stands out to me who's had penalties all year long is Matoyer. Like I think he's done well in certain instances, but he has a lot of penalties, a lot of false starts, a lot of holding. Um, he definitely has trouble in that area. And then there's been other times where he's just letting people past and barely even getting a hand on them. Um, and we have another guy, I think Schmidt, if I remember right. Um, he played one of the games and he looked pretty good. And I feel like we need to be looking at getting him involved more. Matoyer might be one of those guys that practices well, and when it comes to game time, he's just making errors. Um, and I think we need to be giving the other guy a little more chance there. He's the main guy on offensive line that I see issues with on that, and he's not the only one, but it seems to happen more often than not. So either he needs to, be a little more disciplined in his mechanics and stop that stuff, or they need to start, having a little more competition in that.
Yeah. What do you think, TJ?
Nice.
You ever? How many times have you gone offsides in your career?
Too many. Not often, but man, it should definitely hurt you to the core when you do. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. It's, something that you want to get out of your repertoire as fast as possible. You know what I mean?
Right. So when you went offsides, was it more like you were too focused on what the defense was doing,
Yeah,
or
or maybe too focused on the play or excited about the play or confused, yeah, about what was happening on the defense. Um, yeah, it didn't happen too many times, but even one time is too many. So, but yeah, and I think that in football specifically, through the video, through like just watching it, you can't understand what all goes on between players and the opposition and the shit talking and just all the mental things that are done um, between the lines, that you can't really decipher when you're watching it on TV or even live. And so there are a lot of distracting principles out there on the football field. And, when you get in someone's head, either for better or for worse, it's effective. So, maybe some mental toughness, focus as well.
Right. I hear that. The few times, I mean, I've gone offsides. Well, for you, it'd be a false start because you're on offense. But for me, offsides, I just got too focused on. I'm looking at my old lineman. In the previous few plays, I got my butt kicked. So now I'm thinking to myself, for me to not get my butt kicked, I need to get off the ball. So now I'm
Yeah.
too focused on I need to get off the ball to get to the spot that I need to be so I can win this rep. And then they hit you with the you're just going. So there's a lot going on with that, which I
Yeah.
understand, but I think I feel like on the offensive line, I think maybe it is that like you're going up against a guy that might be giving you a hard time, and you're trying to get the little extra jump on him, and it might be worth it to help your offensive line out and put him in a situation where he can get the jump on somebody.
Hmm.
Going on that silent count instead of trying to go, on three. Um, so yeah, but I like to see it cleaned up. I feel like that's going to be important up against this game right now. This upcoming game against New Mexico is how clean of a game can we play?
I think
It's
a
not
good
about
comparison to that too is like it reminds me of a wide receiver that is thinking about turning up field and what he's going to do after the catch before he's secured the catch. Like we need to
absolutely.
be thinking about our job right now before we can think about what we're going to do next. I think the same applies to like a lineman, either offense or defense that jumps the ball a little bit. It's like
Hmm.
if you're already thinking about, okay, I need to be doing this and this to get around this guy or whatever. I mean, you need to be thinking about that to a point, but if you're already focused on that so much before the ball is even snapped and you're not focused on the snap, to me, it's a metaphor to like the receiver who hasn't quite caught the ball, but he's looking at turning upfield. It's the same kind of mental discipline, I think, in that penalty. So I want to ask
For
you guys
sure.
as former players, like in practice or something, let's say you guys don't see these penalties in practice. You only see them come out during the games. What can coaches do to help fix this in practice? You know, what steps would you guys be taking as players to try to correct that?
It would be running gassers and then line up. We're gonna scrimmage, but before we're gonna run a play. You're gonna run a gasser, maybe even two, to get you tired and to get you maybe break you a little bit and start feeling sorry for yourself and be like, man, I'm tired, and then have you go out there because that's what's happening in the game. I feel like once you get tired, you start letting go of certain habits or letting go of your mental toughness and start thinking about other things. I think that's the main thing I would do. Also, just emphasizing having a routine. When the play is over, what am I looking at? What am I thinking about? Who am I looking at? Am I looking at the coach? Am I looking at the down marker? Do I know where we're at? Is it third and long? Am I expecting a hard count for them to try to get me to go off sides? All that stuff is important, but it has to be trained in practice. So I would like to get my guys as tired as possible and then get a fresh offensive line out there, try to get after him and then hit him with that hard count and see if we can get them to jump off sides. And then if they do, guess what? We're running again and you lining back up. That's how I would approach it. What about you, TJ?
Yeah, same. I mean, I saw this Instagram and the guy he had a bunch of clips up there and he said, "You've got to sprint when you're tired. You must sprint when you're tired. You must sprint while you're tired. You have to sprint while you're tired. You must sprint while you're tired." He said it like 50 times. And
Right.
it is just the fundamental foundational truth. Um, practice I don't know, but what I feel that I've seen and those that I've gone to, and I don't know anything about this year because I haven't gone down there, but man, where practice was too torturous, I feel when I was playing, it got too lackadaisical and too fun. and too like technique driven and not enough conditioning and plus technique driven. And so I think finding that crucial balance is the answer, right? Like, you know, commitment to the time, right? Like Dan Hawkins would say, be here now, right? It's like you might have a date later, you might have a test tomorrow, but that shit really doesn't matter. Like you got to be here right now and get the most out of every practice rep. Um, and I think that there's practicing with urgency and running a little bit, but I think, like you said, a gasser and then the drill, and or the plays, the offensive, defensive, 7-on-7, whatever. But I really think that getting people tired and pushing through is a huge, benefit to any team, even though it hurts and it sucks.
Yeah, I think also I could see them running like some drill that's kind of mentally exhausting, something where you're having to think and analyze a lot. Um, and hopefully one that gets you a little physically tired too, you know. If they can find a drill like that, run those drills and then go right into scrimmage plays. I think that can help to mimic that aspect a little bit in game too. But
Yeah.
I think that's something that's difficult as a coach is like how do we fix something that doesn't happen in practice? You know? Because there's not those coachable moments in practice for us to be like, hey, don't do that, do this instead, or whatever it is. I think we're struggling a little bit with that right now as a coaching staff. I think there's things that happen in game that they don't see in practice. They don't really know how to address it because it only happens in game. And I think going forward, that's going to be key to the success of this team in future years. I think in this year, I think the rest of our games are fairly easy or should be fairly easy for us. There's a couple that might give us trouble, but I mean, if we lose another game this year, I would be sorely disappointed. Because the rest of them, like the first one, I already kind of everyone was already kind of saying it's going to be our second hardest game behind Notre Dame. And then I think with it being the first game and us not really figuring out how this team fully looks without Genty and stuff, you know, still kind of finding our legs as a finding our identity now. Um, I saw that as being trouble, and it was. Um, and I think I was happy to see them recover from that and go into these other games. And then even this Notre Dame game, I don't feel like they played badly. Like Spencer Danielson said, I think coming out of this game, I didn't feel the same way I felt coming out of the USF game. Like coming out of that first game, I was like we looked terrible. Like lack of
Right.
discipline, people giving up halfway through the play, bad tackling, like every all around, we just looked bad. And coming out of Notre Dame, I didn't feel like that. I felt like we actually, like, especially on defense, I thought we did a really good job. We held them to pretty low points. I think we just, like we talked about before, I think we fell flat on the passing game, especially. Running could have been a little bit stronger, but they're a big physical team. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to run, especially in the first quarters. Um, and I just think, you know, we fell short on offense on this game. But even through that, I didn't feel like I saw, you know, wide receivers giving up before they made it to the ball or like I just didn't see any of that lack of discipline as far as effort goes. I think penalties and passing really is what hurt us on this. So
Yeah. And
going
we
forward, I'm
did it
hoping to
before,
see
but
less penalties for sure.
yeah, I are as we all are for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, shout out to Ben Ford again. Making the most of making the most when he gets the ball. I would like to see. So I know it's very valuable to get the motions and shifts and things like that, so that we can understand the defense. But um, there is also a little bit of that paralysis by analysis, where it's like we're doing too much to try to figure out what the defense is doing. I think that gives them a mental like a superior it can put the offense in an inferior position, in a reactive position, as opposed to like, hey, we're going to impose our will on people, like we're doing motions because we want to, not because that we feel we have to. And I feel like the cadence of the game, uh, it kind of suffered on our end because of too many motions, like every play with a shift, every play with emotion to again figure out what the defense is doing. I would like to see more. It's obviously needed, but I want to see more confidence in taking it to them instead of trying to get around them. Um, and and so yeah, I just want to shout out Ben Ford again. And then number 5, Marshall. You know, we talked about him a little bit last week and how natural of a playmaker and an athlete that he is. I think the knock was effort before. I loved seeing the effort this week, and man, you can tell that that guy is going to be a true playmaker. Um, and so I'm excited for this week. Have him go against a different, a different defense. You know, maybe there are some weaknesses that they can exploit, but moving on into the upcoming game, I really want to see more of that killer mentality.
I do want to point out that on Marshall, man, that jumping catch he had was, I thought, phenomenal. I know they called it as a pass interference on the offense because he pushed off. He really didn't push off. The
Not
defensive
enough
guy
to
was
get a
kind of pushing
penalty.
him, and he was just hand playing a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
So I thought that was a phenomenal catch. But yeah, so let's wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for coming in and listening to our thoughts on the Notre Dame game. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you for the next one to kick off the New Mexico game. Kind of give our thoughts on what that looks like and what we need to be doing going forward to win this one and future games. See you guys next time.
See ya.
Later.